Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Enough. So happy to be back with you and back with Stav, so I don't have to be rambling onto the video alone. So I'm sure you guys are happy to see his face back again, so you don't have to listen to much of me. But just so glad to be back and have you on. So Stav, today we're just going to be talking about differences, and it's kind of vague, and we know that, but we're trying to figure out what we want to talk about, and we kept coming back to there are so many different Christians in this world. Like, what do we do as Orthodox? And so that's kind of where the conversation will be going. Might go on a few tangents, might go off the path a little bit, but bear with us. So Stav, really, I know we've talked about this, but where in your life have you seen like being an Orthodox Christian be just kind of um, pushed aside almost, or like are there moments in your life where you felt almost as like kind of second rate when you're with like Catholics or Protestants and they're
Oh,
talking and
oh yeah. So since I was preschool till I think fifth grade, I went to Lutheran and Catholic school.
Mhm.
So like when I lived in Arizona, I went to Lutheran. Then when I came to Minnesota, I went to a Catholic school. And I mean, it was obviously all new for me. And it was nice to like get used to it and like going for so many years, but like it was weird getting to know their religion and then like going back to church and like seeing what we do, like the differences that we have and some of the even the similarities between Catholics or Lutherans or something like that. But like at mass and stuff, I would like say like I remember like saying something to one of my friends and they were like, no, you're wrong. Like that's not how you do it. Like something like that. And like I for sure felt that like being kind of a lower end, I would say. I don't know like the perfect word for it, but for sure like looked down upon
yeah.
as an Orthodox Christian because it's just different. Like they think it's okay. They he's Greek Orthodox. He believes in like weird gods and stuff like that. It's like no.
Oh, the
Uh,
classic. Do you believe in Zeus?
yeah, you believe in
Never gave
Zeus. Like
hell.
it's
Um,
yeah, and I mean it obviously got better as like we got older and kids got more mature and everything. And there was always kids who would like actually want to learn, which was nice. But I think I for sure gone through that where I think I've like being an Orthodox Christian in that setting has for sure been looked down upon.
yeah. You know,
So
I feel the same way. I go to Protestant university, so it's just kind of my first year experiencing all this as I've gone to public schools the rest of my life. But it's interesting to see because I'll get into these conversations with my friends, and then Faith will come up and they'll start talking, and I'll say something. Well, this is what we believe, and this is kind of where the church has always thought of it, and then they'll just kind of look at me, listen, but not really hear, and then just move on. So it's almost as if they're like kind of ignoring it, maybe because they don't know what to do, maybe because they've never heard it, not
yeah,
trying to judge, but it's just like there is almost like a barrier. Like when, as Orthodox, like if we start talking and like almost proclaiming our faith, which, we should be doing to a certain extent, it's like, oh, a wall goes up and it's like, all right, move on. But it's
mhm,
interesting because like, we are called to be one church, and we were one church for a little bit until like the Great Schism. And
yep,
I know Sava, you and I were talking about this, but what always gets me, like, even though I know what it means, is like in the creed we use like one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, and like I hear the word Catholic, and that's just an immediate response. I think, oh, the Pope, Rome, and all of this.
yep, yep. When I
No,
was
it's like,
younger, I thought the same thing.
yeah, it's like even today now, like I know what it means, I know how it's used, and still it's like, the Catholics. I'm like,
No,
wait a
but yeah, you still hear that word and you automatically like are associated with something else.
right, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
interesting to see like what like not this is gonna sound bad, but it's not like ill intent, but like what the Catholics have kind of taken from us in a sense. Like they took the
oh
word Catholic.
yeah,
Like, we're still the Holy Orthodox Catholic and Apostolic Church. Why? Because Catholic means the universal church, right? Now we've just added Orthodox to the name, so it's Orthodox from the
mhm,
Greek word orthodoxy, like meaning upright or the true teaching. So now it's just the true universal church in a sense. But it's interesting because you can look at just the name, but also like the saints of our church before the schism, like they've not stolen, but we just kind of forget that they even existed, like St. Patrick, and well, that's the only one I can think of course, right now. But some of the other Roman saints or all of this, it's very interesting.
mhm,
It's another point too, is like as I was kind of looking into all of these things a while back, I came across an interview of this Western Rite Orthodox priest, which I won't go into what that means, but it's interesting. And he was talking about how he has parishioners come to him, and he's like, "Why do I have to be Greek to be Orthodox, or why do I have to be Russian to be Orthodox?" And he was saying, no one gives right answers. but I think I've come up with the right answer. And I agree with this answer. And he says it's because there was sin. Sin caused the separation of churches, right?
Mhm.
Whether that seems far-fetched or not, that's ultimately what happened, right? Like Adam and Eve sinned, which caused the separation from paradise. So it's almost an easy deduction that somewhere, somehow, sin got into the heart of man and it divided our churches. And so
Mhm.
it's interesting that now, because of sin, we're forced to almost be in these categories of Christians instead of one body.
Yeah, and I mean, so like, do you think for kids like listening to this, and I feel like I don't want people to get this assumption that we're saying, "Oh, because you're not Orthodox, like God doesn't love you, like you're not doing the right things." Like, no, not at all. Like, I have like my grandfather. He on my mom's side, he's not Orthodox at all, but probably lives the most Orthodox life out of anyone in our family, and knows nothing about the faith, but still lives. If he knew something about the faith, he would know he lives a great Orthodox life. And I want like to get at that. Like, I don't I want people to know, like, we're not judging you. It's not a judgment. It's kind of like a teaching. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know how to get at that, but I'm trying to think like, how would people see that we're not saying God doesn't love you with this,
Right, for
and
sure.
you're not going to go to heaven or anything like that.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point because you're right. We're not doing that. We're not saying if you're not
Exactly. And with all these different denominations now, it's like, okay, who do we believe?
right. And
And
it's a
like,
tough
who
question.
does God love?
I don't think we're really well suited to answer that question. But I think what we can say is, as Orthodox Christians, having lived this life for what 19 years, almost 20 years, like from our experiences from different priests, or at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for you, Stav. But what I've learned is that just stay strong in the teachings of the church that you've been taught, and try
Mhm.
not to waver, because in Orthodoxy we believe that we have the truth. We believe that this is the church that Christ founded right through the apostles on Pentecost, and this is the faith that the apostles went on and taught. And so I think knowing that, it changes our perspective on things. And in fact, I'm going to share a quote that was just put up on the Orthodoxy Daily Instagram. So if you're not following that, this is a great little shameless plug to go follow our Instagram for a lot of other Orthodox content besides this podcast. But it's from Father Thomas Hopko, and he says, what we are interested in is our own self, our own church, our own salvation. And that's the best thing we can do to everybody else around us. And so this was on one of his lectures on some other topic, just nowhere near what we're talking about today. But I think it brings a good point, and stuff. Maybe you want to talk about what you think about this quote after. But he's saying, don't worry about everyone else. Just focus on your
Exactly.
person,
Mhm.
because we can't do anything. I was reading another quote today. I don't even know where I saw this, but it was from an Orthodox monk. That was all it said. It was attested. It was like, as a young boy, I wanted to change the world. I realized I couldn't change the world, so I went to change my town. I realized I couldn't change my town, so I went to go change my family. In my old age, I realized I couldn't even change that, so I focused on changing myself. And it goes on. It says, if I knew at a young age I could only change myself,
Mhm.
by changing myself, I would change how my family perceives Christ. By changing my family could go out and change the town, and then my town can go and change the world.
Mhm.
So it's very
I like
interesting. Yeah, isn't that really cool?
it's really cool. Yeah, and I think like, and I think the Orthodox faith really stresses that with like free will and everything.
Mhm.
You have the opportunity to do everything yourself and to do what you want. And I think people kind of think they're pushed for the faith and all that. It's like, no, your faith is your own personal journey.
Mhm.
And it's like my dad, he didn't grow up Orthodox at all. He might have gone to Episcopalian church, I think,
Mhm.
but there was no Orthodox church in his town. So
Right.
like there was no Orthodox faith around him, and then he took it upon himself to learn the faith, to go to church, like all that. So it is a personal journey, and I don't think anyone can have people telling them exactly what to do. They can have like help
Right.
tools to like guide them and everything, but in the end, I think it is your own personal decision. And I think like with other denominations, as Orthodox people, we have to like love them, we have to help them, guide them, and all that. So
Yeah, I think you bring up a very good point. I'm gonna say one thing and then we'll kind of move on. Or I'm gonna say two things. One that will move us forward. But I think you were saying, it is a personal choice. And I agree with that to an extent. I think that it is up to us to want to know and learn Christ. And once we get to that point, we go seek others. We seek like priests and spiritual fathers and spiritual
Yep.
guides,
Yeah.
because orthodoxy isn't a solo mission.
Mhm.
It's often said that like the only place you can go alone is hell, right? But you
Mhm.
can go to heaven with the whole, I don't know how they said it, but it takes a village
No,
basically.
yeah, 100,
And
yeah.
so I think we also have to cultivate that. It's like, okay, now I want to know Christ. Where do I seek that help? And that's really tough, because now it's like, okay, now I have to go um, express myself to someone else. I have to go rely my secrets that I've kept in because they've burdened me. They're embarrassing, whatever, to someone else through confession or just to get help. And so that's just another hurdle we have to cross.
Mm.
But the second part, I think you were saying, and I forgot now that I went on my little rant, was we just have to act like it, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. And I like that, because like that's what Christ teaches. He just says, like, go and do, go and tell the faith, but like also keep it secret sometimes. Some of the biggest miracles, he's like, don't tell anyone. And it's really interesting. Uh,
Mhm.
and so, we have to almost keep it in, but also live it, right?
Yeah, and you can't see everything to believe it. Like sometimes you gotta believe it. So, and I think yeah, like that right there is a really good like stressing point.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I kind of lost all the words I was trying to say. And so it came out in that small thing. But I came across another quote on this morning while I was scrolling through Instagram, as I do instead of doing other productive tasks, which I think most of us can relate to. But it's from Saint Theophan the Recluse, and he says, "All who truly believe in Christ and cleave to Him with all their soul are changed into His image by the power of His resurrection." Like, how powerful is that? We could have just read that and stopped recording. Like, that could have been the whole podcast episode, right? But but no, we had to run our mouths.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I think I don't know. I've talked a lot of stuff. What are your thoughts on this quote?
Can you read it one more time?
Yeah, it says, "All who truly believe in Christ and cleave to Him with all their soul are changed into His image by the power of His resurrection."
Yeah, and I love that, and like I'll go right back to my grandfather. He literally tries to be a spitting image of Christ, and you can see that you can see that in his personality. If you met him, like you can tell.
Mhm.
It's just, and once you get to that point in your life, you are literally an image of Christ, and you can be light to other people, I think. And maybe someone who isn't really in a faith, in a church, isn't a Christian, maybe they'll like come in contact with you and be like, oh my gosh, this person was amazing. Like maybe I should start following the faith, see what this offers. And I think that's really powerful right there, is to just every day is just trying to be a spitting image of Christ, because you never know who you're going to run into.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to end it. Just be be like Christ so that others can see Christ.
Mhm.
That's really, and that's, I mean, I don't have no authority to make this proclamation, but like that really is a big part of our faith, right?
Yeah.
So I hope you could take some of that, whatever we said that may have stuck with you. I hope you take it with you and know that it just takes trying to live like Christ. It doesn't take perfecting, like being like Christ, because no one can. We're gonna struggle, but it's all about getting up. Even if you die like not being perfect, as long as you got up that last time, that's what God's looking for. So I just pray, and we pray as a team that you all just have a good week, and that you found some words in this interview. Hopefully God spoke to you guys, and just remember that God is enough, because really it, in all, that's what matters. So go with that message. And if you like this video, subscribe, like it, follow us on Orthodoxy Daily. And with that, just have a good week, guys.